The soft morning light filtered through sheer white curtains, casting a gentle glow across the room, like a whispered promise of peace. Anna Collins stirred awake in the warm arms of the man she once believed was her destiny. Matthew Grayson lay asleep beside her, his strong arm draped protectively around her waist, a quiet habit that spoke volumes of tenderness. Even in sleep, he never let her go. Anna turned gently to face him, her eyes tracing the familiar lines of his face bathed in golden light. His lashes were thick and dark, his lips slightly pursed in the stillness of slumber. Something in that quiet moment made her heart race, as if she were seeing him for the very first time. 3 years earlier, they met at a design expo, where Anna had curated a stunning exhibit. Matthew, a rising tech entrepreneur, had walked up and said something she'd never forget. The only thing that made me stop wasn't the lamp. It was the one who placed it. Just one sentence, one conversation about art, dreams, and children's books, and Anna knew her heart had fallen into a place from which it could never return. Matthew loved her wholly and without hesitation, and Anna gave him all of herself, with tenderness, fragility, and the quiet hope of a woman who once believed she didn't deserve to be loved so completely. 1 year later, they married. Their small white house by the San Francisco Bay became their sanctuary. Anna left her design firm and began illustrating children's books, a childhood dream she'd buried for years. Matthew supported her every step, placing her happiness above the chaos of boardrooms and investor meetings. Every morning, they brewed coffee together, listened to jazz, and read the paper in sunlight. On weekends, they walked in the park, took candid photos, talked for hours like there was never enough time. She once told him, "If I could frame these moments, I'd hang them in every corner of our home." But even the sweetest love stories can feel the wind before the storm. Matthew's mother, Victoria Grayson, made her first entrance during a family dinner. Her silver hair was perfectly pinned, her eyes sharp as blades. She smiled at Anna and said, "You're interesting. I don't think Matthew's ever chosen someone so simple." Her smile was velvet, but her words cut like ice. Anna smiled back, but something shifted. In that moment she knew a quiet battle had begun, not with shouting or slamming doors, but with silent glances, subtle comments, and cracks that begin in glass long before the shatter. Anna had always believed that evil never arrived with thunder, but with silence, and she was right. What unraveled between her and Matthew didn't begin with a storm, but with quiet cracks, invisible to the untrained eye. After the first dinner with Victoria, something in the air changed. Matthew didn't say anything directly, but Anna could feel a subtle shift. He seemed more cautious when talking about his mother. Once, when Anna made a light-hearted joke about Victoria's sharp remarks, he only smiled awkwardly and changed the subject. Anna felt like she had entered a contest she didn't know the rules to. She tried harder, at everything, to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, but the harder she tried, the more inadequate she felt. Victoria's presence became more frequent, and with each visit came another offhand comment, a glance too long, a question that wasn't quite a question. "You're very kind," Victoria said one afternoon over tea. "But kindness isn't always what a man needs to thrive in this world." Anna smiled. That night, she cried in the bathroom. And then came the night everything broke. On the very evening Anna had planned to tell Matthew she was pregnant. She'd kept the secret for nearly a week, not out of fear but hope. She wanted the perfect moment. A quiet evening, soft candlelight, his favorite potato soup, and a small note she'd placed inside a children's book. Our next chapter begins with 2 tiny heartbeats. But Victoria had other plans. That evening, Anna received a text from Matthew. "Mom's dropping by. I'll be late. Don't prepare anything." She sighed but smiled. It could wait one more day. Victoria arrived shortly after, but she wasn't alone. With her was a man Anna didn't recognize, David, introduced vaguely as an old family friend. Victoria said she had to make a quick call and insisted Anna and David have some tea. Anna, slightly unsettled, remained polite. She poured tea, made small talk. David was friendly, though something about him felt rehearsed. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. A few minutes later, Victoria returned and chaos exploded. "Matthew," she cried, voice trembling. Matthew stepped through the front door to a scene frozen in tension. Anna and David sitting together, a teacup shattered on the floor, and Victoria standing between them, her face pale and stricken. She tried something," Victoria gasped. "She locked me in the kitchen, and when I got out, I found this." "What?" Anna blinked. I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?" "Anna, you locked my mother in the kitchen?" Matthew's voice was sharp, clipped. "No, I didn't. I just, she turned to David. "Tell him." David looked down, silent. "She told me I could stay if I wanted," he murmured. "I think it was just a misunderstanding." "No," Anna screamed. "You're lying." Matthew said nothing. He stared at her with eyes she barely recognized. Cold, distant. After a long silence, he turned and walked into his study. When he came back, he was holding a file. "I've already signed," he said. "I hope you do too." Anna stood frozen, her world cracking open. She wanted to scream that she was pregnant, that this was all a setup, that Victoria had manipulated everything. But her throat locked. Matthew left that night, without looking back. Victoria stepped close, whispering as she pulled the door shut. "I told you he was never yours." New York. The city that never sleeps, where everyone runs toward ambition, escape, or a new beginning. For Anna Collins, it wasn't a destination. It was a refuge. She didn't choose it because it felt close, but because it was far enough for no one to remember she had once been Matthew Grayson's wife. She arrived in New York visibly pregnant. In the biting cold of winter, she dragged her suitcase through Union Square, her tears long since dried. She didn't need pity. She needed a place to give birth, to survive. She found a small apartment in Brooklyn, third floor, creaky wooden stairs, but it had a window that caught sunlight, and that was enough. She gave birth to twin boys on a gusty March morning, Eli and Evan. No family, no one to cut the cords except a kind nurse from the clinic. But the moment she held them, Anna knew she wasn't alone anymore. Her days became a blur of feedings, lullabies, deadlines. She drew children's illustrations during nap time, sent drafts by email, paid rent month to month, and kept a steady smile when her sons asked about Dad. Anna picked up her pen again. She submitted work to indie publishers. A small press in Manhattan fell in love with her tender, soulful lines, especially a sketchbook titled The Bear Who Waited, inspired by Evan waiting for Eli in the ER during a fever scare. Anna wasn't famous, but she had readers. Not rich, but she and her boys had enough. Enough warmth, enough food, enough love. Their tiny apartment was covered in artwork, by Anna, by Eli, by Evan. The once blank walls now held forests, oceans, castles, and a figure called the missing father. Eli and Evan grew fast. They had everything but a dad. Their steel gray eyes and thoughtful stares reminded Anna too often of a man they had never met, but she had never forgotten. Anna didn't lie, but she didn't tell everything. When they asked, "Who is our dad?" she would simply say, "Someone Mom loved very much." Eli would think for a moment, "Did he love you back?" Anna would smile gently, "He did, but sometimes love gets lost in all the wrong things." Each night she told them stories, her own creations, tales of a kingdom broken by misunderstandings, a father cursed to forget, and a mother lighting the way with nothing but heart and hope. Every birthday they would ask, "Does he know we exist?" She would hold them tight. Maybe not yet, but one day he will. She believed that. Even if she no longer hoped in Matthew as a man, she believed he had a right as a father to know. And then it came. One late autumn afternoon, Anna received a heavy envelope from an unknown address. Inside, a wedding invitation. Matthew Grayson and Claudia Mercer. Ceremony at St. Michael's Cathedral, San Francisco. Anna stood still. After 8 years, she hadn't heard his name, not once. At that moment, Evan, reaching for markers, pulled the card from her hand. "Grayson," he read aloud. "Mom, that's the name from our bedtime books." Ellie asked slowly, "Is this our dad?" Anna didn't answer, but her silence was loud. Evan said, "I don't know if he's good or bad, but I want to meet him. Just once." Anna sank to the floor, her head on her son's shoulder. She knew. She couldn't hide anymore. "All right," she whispered. "We'll go, so he'll know you were always here." 2 days after receiving the wedding invitation, Anna still hadn't decided what to do. The card sat open on the dining table, untouched since. Every time she passed it, her heart skipped a beat. She'd thought about throwing it away. But Eli and Eben, sensing something, always placed it neatly back in the center, like a quiet reminder, "We want to meet our father." Anna couldn't blame them. How could she, when they'd never heard his voice, never once been held in his arms? She had given them everything, except one truth they deserved. That night, after the boys were asleep, Anna picked up the invitation again. "Matthew Grayson and Claudia Mercer cordially invite you to their wedding at St. Michael's Cathedral, San Francisco, December 15th. Claudia Mercer. Anna had heard the name. A high-powered attorney, daughter of Judge Meredith Mercer, the kind of woman Victoria Grayson would have chosen without hesitation. Perfect, polished, untouchable. Anna stared at Matthew's name, bold and sharp. She wondered, did he ever think of her? Did he know about the twins? Or had Victoria wrapped the truth in velvet lies and locked it away? The next day, she took the boys for a walk through Central Park. The air was crisp, the sunlight clear. Evan ran ahead while Eli held her hand and whispered, "Mom, would you be mad if we want to meet Dad?" Anna knelt beside him, brushing a curl from his forehead. "No, baby, I wouldn't be mad. I'm just scared. Your dad may not be ready." "Then we'll go," Evan chimed in. "If he's not ready, we'll help him get ready." Anna laughed, a sound caught between joy and sorrow. She made her decision. They would go to San Francisco, not to stop a wedding, not to cause pain, but to speak the truth, once and for all. Whatever happened afterward was Matthew's choice, but he couldn't say he never knew. They flew to San Francisco on December 13th, 2 days before the ceremony. She rented a small place on Twin Peaks, overlooking the city. That night, they sat by the window, looking at the lights. Anna said, "Tomorrow we go to the cathedral. But remember, we don't go to fight. We go to speak the truth. Okay?" Eli nodded. "What if he doesn't believe us?" Anna squeezed his hand. "Then we'll show him." "Are you scared?" Evan asked. She looked out at the city that once held all her dreams. "Yes, but I'm more afraid that he'll never know you exist." The morning of December 15th was cold and misty. Anna dressed the boys in matching navy suits. She wore a long gray dress, hair in a low bun, no makeup, but her eyes carried a light that had been lost for 8 years. They arrived at St. Michael's just as the ceremony began. Choir singing, guests seated, heads turned as they walked down the center aisle. Anna held their hands. She said nothing, neither did anyone else. Matthew stood at the altar in a black tuxedo. When he saw them, his face drained of color. Claudia turned. Her expression crumbled as her eyes landed on the boys. Mirror images of Matthew. Anna stopped halfway down the aisle. Evan let go of her hand, stepped forward, and said clearly, "Dad." A ripple ran through the cathedral. Matthew froze. Eli followed his brother. "Dad, I'm Eli. This is Evan. Mom said you didn't know, but now you do." No one moved. No one breathed. Anya walked up beside them. Her eyes met Matthew's. "I'm not here to stop your wedding. I came to tell you, you left more than me behind. You left them. You deserve to know, and they deserve to know you." Victoria Grayson slowly stood, her face white as stone. Matthew stepped back. His hand covered his mouth. Tears brimmed in his eyes. Claudia turned. "Do you know them?" Matthew shook his head. I didn't, I swear." Evan looked up at Anna. "Can we go now?" Anna nodded. She turned to leave, but as she passed Claudia, she paused. "I hope you'll be happy, but if you plan to marry a man, make sure he has nothing left unresolved." Claudia didn't reply. Her eyes were dry but red. Outside, the cold wind hit Anna's cheeks, but for the first time in years, her chest felt light. Behind her, chaos burst inside the cathedral. Someone shouted Matthew's name, then came footsteps. Anna turned. Matthew ran after them, tie loose, eyes filled with tears. "Anna, is it true? Are they mine?" Anna didn't speak. Eli and Evan turned to face him. Matthew dropped to his knees, arms open. Evan stepped forward, without hesitation. Eli followed, and then Anna. And for the first time in 8 years, her family stood in the same place. No one left St. Michael's after Anna and the boys appeared. The wedding was no longer the center. The entire room sank into a strange silence, not one of reverence, but of shock, of unspoken questions echoing in the vaulted ceiling. Matthew remained kneeling, arms wide open. Evan and Eli embraced him, drawn into a bubble where time melted. 8 years collapsed into a single moment of blood-deep connection. Anna stood a few feet away, watching. She didn't cry. She clenched her hands tightly, as if letting go would make it all fall apart. A soft sob broke the quiet. "Claudia!" She didn't scream, didn't throw anything. She simply stood still, her gaze shifting. "Anna, Matthew, the boys." Then she turned and walked out of the cathedral. No one stopped her. No one dared. Anna watched her go. She didn't hate Claudia. She hadn't come to reclaim anything. She had come to tell the truth as a mother. Matthew slowly rose. His voice trembled. "Is it real?" Anna nodded. "They're mine?" "Yes, and you never told me because you didn't believe me," she said gently. "Because I left with nothing but the silence you chose." He stepped forward, then stopped. "I didn't know. Mother said, you betrayed me. I believed her." Anna looked at him. "Because it was easier to believe the lie than listen to me." The air thickened. Guests sat in stunned stillness. Except for Victoria. She stood now, pale and shaken, her once commanding presence cracked. She stepped into the aisle. "Anna?" she called. Anna turned. "This isn't right," Victoria said, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't ruin a day like this." Anna said nothing. Evan tugged her sleeve. "Is she the reason Dad left us?" Anna knelt, touched his cheek. "All that matters is, I never left you. That's what's true." Matthew turned to his mother. "It was you, wasn't it?" Victoria swallowed. "I only wanted you to be happy Claudia was better." "No," he cut in. "I'm asking if you lied about Anna, about David, about everything." She hesitated. All eyes in the cathedral bore into her. "I lost a wife, 8 years, 2 children, because of you." "You don't understand. You never let me love anyone but you," Matthew said quietly. Victoria trembled, then stepped back, legs shaky. She looked at Anna, then the twins, her eyes hollow. For the first time, Anna didn't see a powerful woman. She saw someone, old, alone, who had just realized she'd destroyed the very thing she thought she was protecting. "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered, but no one accepted it. It was too late. For the first time, the matriarch stood not as a force, but as a shadow of what power could never save. Amma stood, holding Evan and Eli close. She didn't want to stay another second. "Let's go," she whispered. Matthew followed. "Please, wait." "Don't go." Anna turned. "I don't know what you want, Matthew." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to be their father, to start again, if you let me." She looked at him. Then at the boys. "You didn't choose me when I needed you most," she whispered. "This time, choose them." He nodded. "I will, whether you give me another chance or not." 3 days later, Matthew came to the small apartment she'd rented. No flowers, no ring, no begging, just one promise. "I'd like to see them every week. Take them to the park, help with homework. Not for you, for them. They deserve a father." Anna agreed, not because she had forgiven him, but because she believed every child had the right to know where they came from, honestly. And so, from an unfinished wedding, began a new chapter. Not of romance, but of family. An imperfect family, but a real one. A week after the interrupted wedding, Victoria Grayson had not left her grand estate in Palo Alto. Heavy velvet curtains covered every window, shutting out the sun, just as she'd spent a lifetime shutting out anything that might warm her heart. She sat motionless in an old armchair by the cold fireplace. The staff had all left. No visitors came. Calls from social circles stopped once news spread about Matthew's canceled wedding. She had once been the star of every gala, every charity luncheon, but now silence ruled her home. No laughter, no heels clicking across marble floors, no clinking teacups, only the breath of a woman slowly drowning in regret. Victoria had never imagined she would become irrelevant. But worse than being forgotten was being abandoned by her own son. Matthew had come once, the week after. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He simply looked her in the eye and said, "You stole my family." 4 words, and they cut deeper than anything she'd ever known. After that, she never saw him again. And she was not allowed near the 2 boys, her grandsons, whom she had erased from their father's life for 8 long years. She remembered Anna's expression that day, not angry, not vengeful, just still, quiet, a verdict without a judge. Victoria no longer cried. Tears she used to believe were for the weak, but now, in this long, aching silence, she realized silence was the harsher sentence. When no one wanted to speak to her, when even her remorse had no listener, apologies lost their meaning. One afternoon, she stepped into the backyard, the rose garden that once made her proud. Most flowers had wilted, the gardener had quit. In her hand was a letter, written in trembling script. "Anna, I don't expect forgiveness, but if one day Eli and Evan are ready, please, give me a chance, just to sit with them, not as a grandmother, but as a woman who made the greatest mistake of her life." Victoria Grayson. She didn't send it, not yet. She folded the letter and placed it in a drawer where she used to keep old love letters. Beside it was a photograph of young Matthew. That boy, he was now a father. Victoria knew if she wanted to rebuild anything, the first step wasn't asking for forgiveness. It was learning how to exist as someone who no longer had a place in the center of someone else's life. She needed to relearn motherhood, or, if not that, learn, at last, how to be a human being. And while Victoria quietly faced the ruins of all she had destroyed somewhere else, Matthew was beginning a new journey. The journey to rebuild trust with his sons and the woman he once let go. Matthew Grayson didn't know how to be a father. He'd learned to manage corporations, speak before international boards, make million-dollar decisions in minutes. But standing in front of 2 8-year-olds, he felt clumsy, like someone learning to walk again. The first visit after the wedding was on a cold Sunday in Brooklyn. Anna stayed downstairs at the cafe, leaving the apartment to the 3 of them. No pressure, no terms, just a chance, and Matthew didn't want to waste it. He arrived on time, carrying 2 donuts and a children's book titled Where the River Ends, illustrated by Anna. Eli opened the door, said nothing, but didn't close it either. Evan peeked from behind his brother. Do you know how to play soccer?" Matthew smiled. "I can learn." And so they headed to the nearby park. It was still cold, the grass damp, but laughter soon echoed. Evan kicked the ball into his leg, while Eli quietly observed. Matthew didn't try to be their friend. He didn't force closeness. He just showed up. They ended the afternoon sitting on a bench. Matthew read from the book, stumbling occasionally. But Evan leaned on his shoulder, and Eli sat close by, and for the first time, Matthew didn't feel like a stranger in his own life. Over the following weeks, he came every Saturday. One weekend, they visited the museum. Another, they attended a free art class Anna found. Matthew didn't know how to paint, but he tried to draw a crocodile that looked like a camel and made the boys laugh uncontrollably. Anna watched from afar. She didn't interfere, didn't encourage or prevent. She let the children feel and decide. One evening, Eli came home and tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, today Dad didn't check his phone even once." Anna smiled. "Really?" "Yeah. He even remembered our birthday. He asked what kind of cake we like." She knelt to unclip his hair. "Did that make you happy?" Eli nodded. "It made me happy too." For the first time in years, Matthew wasn't just the man who left. He was becoming a father, trying to make things right, not through words, but through quiet, consistent action. One night, after bringing the boys home, Matthew stood at Anna's door, holding a wrinkled drawing Evan had given him. "I know I lost you, Anna," he said quietly. "But if you see that I'm trying, not to win you back, but to grow up, then thank you for letting me do the right thing." Anna took the paper, a house with 3 people and an open door. "They drew you in," she whispered. "That means they're starting to let you in." Matthew nodded. He didn't say more, because he understood. Trust isn't earned through promises, it's built with patience. Spring arrived slowly in New York, as if the city was still hesitating after a long, somber winter. But in a small Brooklyn apartment, the tulips on the windowsill had bloomed, planted by Evan from seeds in January. Their bright yellow petals made the whole room feel warmer. Anna stood in the kitchen, gently stirring a pot of soup, eyes watching her sons laugh with Matthew on the balcony. It was his 14th visit, never missed, never late. This time, he brought a Lego set Eli had been dreaming about. She couldn't deny it. Matthew had changed. He was no longer the overly confident man who hid behind work and prestige. Now, he spent hours building castles, let Evan paint fake lipstick on his face during salon time, and knew every character from a cartoon series he used to ignore but could change. Undo everything that had once broken. Anna remembered too clearly the feeling of leaving that empty house years ago, hand on her swollen belly, heart tangled in grief and betrayal. She had lost so much: trust, time, and a man she thought would be her home. Now Matthew was back, not as a lover, but as a father. But would there come a day when he would choose to walk away again? One evening, after the boys had gone to bed, Matthew stepped onto the balcony where Anna sat with her tea. He sat beside her, silent for a long while. Then, quietly, "I think about you every day," he said, "even when I know I don't deserve to." Anna didn't respond. "I'm not asking you to come back," he continued. "But I'll be here as long as the boys need me, and if one day you decide to move forward, with or without me, at least you'll know I didn't disappear again." She turned to face him, looked into the eyes that once made her believe in everything, and once made her question everything. "Are you sure this time you'll choose to believe me, not someone else?" she asked. Matthew nodded, without hesitation. "Then prove it. Not with words, with time." She stood and walked inside. 2 weeks later, Anna received an invitation from a London publishing house to join a 6-month project. They wanted her to collaborate with international illustrators on a dream book. The kind of opportunity she'd once let go when she became a mother, she was ready to decline. But Eli saw the email. "Go, Mom," he said. "We have Dad now." Evan chimed in. "Dad's noodles are gross, but we'll teach him." Anna laughed, then cried, not because of the offer, but because, for the first time in 8 years, she didn't feel trapped between motherhood and personal dreams. For the first time, she was allowed to choose herself. She looked at Matthew, standing at the doorway, having heard everything. He didn't interrupt, didn't plead. He simply said, "If you go, I'll stay. 6 months, a year, as long as it takes. I'll care for them like they deserve. And when you come back, whatever you decide, I'll still be here." Anna nodded. "Then I'll go." Not to escape, not to test him, but because she was finally ready to live her life, scars, hopes, and a slowly mending trust. And maybe, just maybe, healing didn't mean going back. It meant moving forward with honesty.